In 2015, when asked about dealing with the government at the World Economic Forum, Jack Ma famously said, and I'm quoting, "Love them, don't marry them." 3 years on, he may have finally tied the knot. His partner is Xi Jinping, the president of China. Headlines have described them as dubious comrades in arms. The disclosure about party membership has opened a can of worms. Is the Alibaba chairman the symbol of the success story of the private sector in China, or is Jack Ma an extension of the Chinese state that is pushing Xi Jinping's world dominance plan at the cost of the consumer, that is you? So let's try to understand what's happening here and why it's significant. With us is Einar Tangen, political and economic commentator, with us from Tokyo this evening, and Greg Swenson, founding partner at Brig Macadam, live with us from London. Good evening to both of you. Greg, I want to start with you. Do you believe Jack Ma has hoodwinked shareholders by keeping away from them this very important, very significant piece of information about his political affiliation?
It's hard to say. I'm not sure that I could accuse him or blame him for hoodwinking anybody. Who knows when he was actually a member or if he's an active member. But what I would point out is I'm not surprised about this. I mean, it's a top-down economy. It's a state-run economy. So it shouldn't surprise me that the biggest players in the so-called economy are in the Communist Party, or at least connected to the Communist Party.
Einar, your thoughts?
Well, big shock. Somebody is connected to a political party. I'm a little bit concerned that, this is being cast in a light where it's kind of like, have you stopped beating your wife? Being a member of the Communist Party is not exactly what people think. I've been in meetings where you've had people from within the Communist Party arguing very vigorously, very, very different positions. Some saying that full democracy and open markets are exactly what's needed. Others saying that China has grown soft and they need to do something similar, if not exactly similar, to a cultural revolution. This idea that somehow China is monolithic is part of the problem. And it's part of the reasons that many in the international press vilify China. I think it's the wrong perception. There's so little known about how China works, and especially the party. What in essence happens is there's a discussion. The discussion will be wide-ranging, and during that discussion there will be this move towards consensus. Once that consensus is reached by the people who are making the decision, what happens is it is then the rule that you support the consensus, and if you don't, you can suffer consequences. In terms of Jack Ma's support or being part of the party, is as significant as somebody being a part of the Republican or Democratic Party in the United States, or the BJP or Congress in India. Having money and power far apart is unusual. Generally, they're always found together.
Absolutely. I want to agree with you, and you make it sound like a very democratic process, Einar, in the Communist Party of China. So if it's all so well, why hide it from the world? Why not declare it as part of the Alibaba IPO prospectus in 2014? Why hide it from the shareholders? When you're asked about it, Jack Ma, let's admit it, has maintained a very, very ambiguous position about his political leanings.
Yes,
well, I don't think that's
has.
Einar.
The question is he active, and what is his position within that? We don't know. This is purely speculation at this point. But in terms of declaring your political affiliation, I really don't know that any prospectus out there has the CEO saying, I'm an ardent Republican or an ardent Democrat. Generally, that is seen through what they give in terms of money to these different organizations. The same within India. I don't know anybody who says I'm a member of the Congress Party or the BJP on their prospectus. I don't know that it necessarily matters. People expect those individuals who are leading a company to be successful. I don't think anyone can say that Jack Ma has not been successful, or that he has somehow sacrificed the future of Alibaba for political reasons. Obviously, Jack Ma had a big break within China because China decided to create homegrown solutions rather than allowing international companies to dominate their markets. But this was something of a learning curve that they deliberately wanted to do, and I don't think it is necessarily means by which they said only Communist Party members need apply. Remember, it's 88 million people throughout China who remember this. A large percentage of them were brought into the fold during Jiang Zemin's period because they wanted more businesses to advise them on what the future of China should be. So this is an issue where the party itself is trying to reach different voices who can help them with their economic development.
Right. As for your comparison with India, India is a democracy, China is not, and the government-business relationship is very different. The dynamics are very different, so it's an unfair comparison. Greg, I want to ask you this. What does this mean for the consumer and the shareholder of Alibaba if I know that the chairperson is affiliated to a particular party which insists that the party is supreme and so that compromises the data of all these millions of people? Is this all a storm in a teacup? Is there no truth to these concerns?
Well, I think it depends on how active he is in the party and when. So, look, if he went to a party meeting 20 years ago or if he's still on a list or something, I'm not sure that's particularly harmful. But what it does expose is two major issues, or two major myths. One is that the Chinese economy was going to become more free and open, and that the state would actually liberalize with the opening of the economy. And then also it exposes the myth of communism and socialism, which is where, many of the leaders of these ideologies make themselves wealthy first on the backs of the workers, and then they're happy with their money. So they decide that socialism will work for everybody else once they've made their money. So I think it exposes two myths, and I think they're both, I'm glad they're being exposed. And if that means that there's some criticism of Jack Ma for being in the party and there's some hypocrisy there, yeah, I think that's a debate, and I think that's some information people need to know as consumers and as investors.
Indeed. Greg, Aina, thanks very much for sharing your thoughts with us here. A 140-year-old temple in Malaysia is facing threats from a property developer. The matter is in the courts. It's a property dispute. But the property developer is leaving no stone unturned to have the premises vacated. Hindu worshippers have attacked with swords and axes. And yet, the Malaysian Prime Minister says it is not about race or religion. Is the Islamic Malaysia serious about protecting its Hindu minorities?
More than 2 months, we have given the police hundreds of reports asking for protection.
Meet Suresh Ramaji. He's the spokesperson for the Sri Mahamariamman Devasthanam temple in Malaysia. Ramaji laments that Kuala Lumpur police did not heed his requests for protection. The Sri Mahamariamman Devasthanam temple dates back to 1873, the oldest Hindu temple in the Malaysian capital. And a property developer who reportedly owns the temple land has his eyes set on this place of worship. The MCT group is involved in litigation with the temple authorities to relocate the temple. But land disputes often take years to be settled. So the property developer decided to use force against Hindu worshippers. Swords were drawn and Hindu worshippers inside the temple and the temple's caretakers were attacked early Monday morning.
At about 2 o'clock, suddenly a group of mobsters gate crashed and entered into the premises, and they started shouting slogans, and they told that everyone should clear this temple premises, all should go out. They want to acquire it and give it to the one city. They mentioned this. So they said, all of you get out from here, and they brought very strong weapons, samurai swords, iron rods, the charcoal, axe. In fact, they used the axe and hit our security guard in the entrance, and he's now in the ICU.
But the attack didn't go unanswered. Within 24 hours, a group of men vandalized the property of the developer, torching vehicles. Malaysian police have arrested 21 for rioting and arson. Malaysian media are quoting Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad as saying the incident had nothing to do with race or religion, even though the matter involves relocation of a temple. And even if the Malaysian Prime Minister is to be believed, many questions remain unanswered. Why did the Malaysian police let the situation slip out of hand? Why was the oldest Hindu temple in Kuala Lumpur not provided protection? Did the developer grease the palms of Malaysian police before attacking Hindu worshippers? Officially, Malaysia is an Islamic country and Hindus are a minority at 6% of the Malaysian population.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is on a tour to Arab nations. His first trip since the murder of Saudi dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the behest of the kingdom. This happened in the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul. There's been a massive outcry against the Crown Prince from around the world. There have been murmurs of anger even within the Al Saud royalty. On Monday, the Crown Prince arrived in Egypt. He was received by the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Both sides reaffirmed their stand to the terms of reconciliation for Qatar. The visit was the third leg of the Crown Prince's tour after visits to Bahrain and the UAE. Mohammed bin Salman arrives in Tunisia today, where dozens of rights activists and journalists have rallied against him over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Rights activists, among them Journalists' Union, called for a protest at the central Habib Bourguiba Avenue in Tunis that was the scene of the mass protests that toppled the Ben Ali government in 2011, the beginning of the Arab Spring.
أنا نشوفها غلطة اللي هما يستقبلوه. يعني ما تنجمش أنت تعمل حاجة شعبك اللي انتخبك مش موافق عليها. أنت في حالة كيما هكايا نحن حطيناك أنت تعمل حاجات اللي نحن نوافقوا عليها نجيب العباد اللي نحن حشمنا بهم.
The Crown Prince will round off his tour with a two-day stop in Argentina, where he'll come face-to-face with world leaders on the 30th of November for the two-day Group of 20 or G20 summit. Among those expected to attend are President Donald Trump and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has kept international pressure mounting on the kingdom in the wake of the Khashoggi murder. Turkey's foreign minister today said that the Crown Prince asked for a meeting with the Turkish president, but Ankara believed that there was currently no reason not to meet him. Saudi Arabia has said that the Crown Prince had no prior knowledge of the killing of the Washington Post columnist at Riyadh's consulate in Istanbul last month, a claim disputed by the Turkish government. They've conducted investigation and they say they have clear evidence that the hit team that killed Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate took instructions from the Saudi Crown Prince. Sources with the US spy agency CIA have said that they have in fact shared information of audio recordings linking the murder directly to MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. Several nations in Europe have also asked for punitive action against the 16 members of the hit team directly responsible for Jamal Khashoggi's brutal killing. But US President Donald Trump has said that Washington will remain a quote-unquote steadfast partner of Saudi Arabia, despite saying that Prince Mohammed bin Salman may have known about the plan of this murder. He has also raised doubts over the CIA's findings. Mohammed bin Salman's tour abroad underscores the strong support the Crown Prince continues to enjoy from his 82-year-old father, King Salman. It also signals that he faces no immediate threats to his grip on power at home. It's a mission that brings us closer to understanding how our world was formed. A robot launched by the US space agency NASA has successfully landed on the surface of Mars. It will help reveal the deepest secrets of space. Our next report has more.
37 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters, 17 meters, standing by for touchdown. Touchdown confirmed.
NASA's Mission Control in Pasadena. California burst into celebration after the InSight probe landed on Mars. The 7 minutes the probe took to approach the surface of the red planet had the world sitting on the edge of their seats.
Within about 6.5 minutes.
Touchdown confirmed.
But as soon as touchdown was confirmed, NASA scientists were over the moon.
It was an incredibly emotional experience. To think about working for 7 years, as many of the people here in the room have done, to get to the point where you have 7 more minutes to survive, literally survive, is incredibly hard to describe. My heart was basically, I think, just stopped beating for 7 minutes. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but then when we got the indication of parachute deployment, which was absolutely terrifying thing to think about, we got that positive.
Ecstatic scenes were witnessed at New York's Times Square as well. where people braved the rain and gathered in large numbers for the big moment. Minutes later, images of the Mars landscape were sent back by the robot.
I can't take out.
Congratulatory messages poured in from across the world and from astronauts on board the International Space Station. After a tense journey of 6 months, the three-legged probe is now sitting on a vast plain of the planet called Elysium Planitia, close to the planet's equator.
But we're still doing that at a supersonic speed.
It is the first probe to dedicate its investigations to understanding the planet's deep interior. The seismometer on board InSight will measure seismic waves from Mars quakes, detecting anywhere from between 12 and 100 of these tremors, up to 6.0 on the Richter scale. InSight will be spending 2 years on the Red Planet. That is 1 Martian year. The findings will help scientists learn about how rocky worlds like the Earth and Moon were formed more than 4.5 billion years ago and reveal space's deepest secrets. As of now, scientists understand how Earth's interior is structured. Studying the surface of Mars will give researchers a different perspective on how rocky planets came into being and evolved over time.
Let's talk about weather woes now. On the one hand, snowfall turns the city into a magical winter wonderland. On the other, it can also leave devastation and destruction behind. And this winter, the snowstorm has crippled the Midwest in the US. Here's a report.
Hundreds of travelers spent their weekend at the Chicago airport after more than 1,400 flights were cancelled. Chicago witnessed one of the largest November snowstorms on record. It brought back memories of the Chicago blizzard of 1967 when the storm wreaked havoc, leaving around 800 Chicago Transit Authority buses and 50,000 cars abandoned on city streets. The National Weather Service said the storm brought winds up to 45 miles per hour and more than 13 inches of snow to the region, bringing everything to a standstill. Despite the National Weather Service warnings in areas stretching across northeast Kansas to Chicago, with snow already falling in some regions including Kansas, central Missouri, southern east Nebraska and southern Iowa, many cars and buses could be seen stuck on highways.
It was really bad. At some points there was no visibility almost, and lots of cars, even trucks and huge buses stuck on the road.
It was really super windy, lots of snow. There was probably no fewer than 100 cars in the ditch. It was crazy, but we're used to the snow driving, so we kept trucking.
At least 24 schools lost power on Monday in Chicago. Kids were shivering in the cold, prompting authorities to shut down schools in various states. Dozens of school districts in Illinois, Missouri, Iowa and Kansas also cancelled classes. While the storm blanketed much of the Midwest over the weekend, snarling flights, closing highways and shutting schools in several states, the only one enjoying was Bei the giant panda, rolling in the snow and climbing trees in his enclosure as snow fell on the East Coast. Bureau Report, World is One, Wion.
And Christmas is almost a month away, but the festivities have already begun, from twinkling lights to giant Christmas trees. Here's a slice of the holiday spirit.
It is that time of the year again, the time when the streets are decorated with lights, tinsels and glitter. Christmas trees line up stores and homes, and shoppers queue outside gift shops. People around the world embrace the holiday spirit with delicious food, beautiful lights and their families exchanging gifts. How can America's top office be left out of the Christmas fervor? First Lady Melania Trump revealed this year's White House decoration. This year, Trump's decked up the White House halls with a patriotic theme called American Treasures. Over 14,000 red ornaments are hanging from 29 trees inside the White House. The White House's Red Room, which was dominated by the white and red, featured Be Best ornaments, the First Lady's signature initiative, and soccer ball ornaments. But the decor didn't gel with everyone. Melania Trump was trolled on Twitter for the eerie decor in the White House this year. Referring to horror movies, Twitterati ridiculed Melania Trump, calling the decor Circle of Hell. But the spirit of Christmas is not easy to dampen. The Trumps may not have received the praise they were looking for. But in Paris, fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld wowed tourists and locals alike. Lagerfeld kicked off the festive season in Paris. The designer lit up the iconic Champs-Élysées Avenue. The 400 trees on the famed avenue sparkled with twinkling red little bulbs to the joy of onlookers and drivers on the busy streets. London's ZSL Zoo also came alive with illuminated sculptures of giraffes, penguins and flamingos. Christmas time is a paradise for shoppers. Berlin's Christmas market has officially opened its doors to the public, giving revelers a reason to enjoy the traditional offerings of mulled wine and seasonal food. Around the world, people are awaiting the holiday season. And even though Christmas is a month away, the jingle bells are already ringing. Bureau Report, World is One.
That magical note, it's a wrap, leaving you with Gravitas Images. Thanks very much for watching.